Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today I'm going to be talking about something that I get asked about all the time, and that is what gear I wear when I'm out hill walking. So I figured that instead of answering each of you individually, I'll just make a video where I talk about things like layering, how to regulate your temperature, how to stay warm and dry in the hills, and yeah, essentially just tell you about some of the lessons I've learned along the way and talk you through what I'm wearing, what gear I like when I'm out in the hills. It's worth mentioning first that this video isn't intended to encourage you to go out and buy loads of expensive new gear. What I really want to stress is that I think that something I love about hill walking is the simplicity of it and the idea that you can kind of just lace on a pair of boots and head out into the hills. But I also think that the more walking you do, the more you want to do longer walks, higher summits, and therefore I think that gear is really important, because essentially gear equals safety. The better kit you have, the warmer you will be, the drier you will be, the more difficult terrain you can handle. So I really believe in investing in high quality kit that is going to last you years and years, rather than buying loads of cheap gear every season. So I think that there are a few key factors that you should consider when choosing what you're wearing to head out into the hills. So the first one is terrain. What kind of ground are you going to be walking on? Are you going to be on footpaths? Are you going to be on rocky terrain? Are you going to be on gravel, dirt, grass? And this will make a difference to kind of what trousers you're wearing often, and also what kind of boots you wear, how much you're packing in your bag, and other things like that. And the next thing is distance. How far are you walking? Are you going to be in the hills for 2 hours, for 6 hours, for even longer? And this obviously will make a difference to how much gear you're wearing. You need to kind of be prepared for every eventuality the longer you're out in the hills. The next thing is weather. Always make sure you check the weather before going out walking. I use a mixture of BBC weather and then MWIS, which is Mountain Weather Information Service, I think. And that is good for if you're going somewhere like the Lake District or Scotland, because it tells you what the weather's going to be like on different summits. And then the next thing is you as a person. So how fit are you? Do you sweat a lot? How warm are you a person? For example, I'm a really cold person and I don't sweat a lot. I know I need to wear a lot of clothes and it takes a lot for me to warm up. So that obviously plays a big role in what I decide when I go out into the hills. And you might think I'm wearing so many layers, but that's just what works for me. So I'm in the woods now. We are clearly all layered up. It's about -8 degrees, I think. Okay, the first thing I'm going to talk about is layering, and it's definitely something that is quite tricky when you first start hill walking. I feel like I've found a layering system that works really well for me, and that's purely based on experience and getting a lot of things wrong as well. But the reason layering is so important is because you really want to be regulating your body temperature when you're out in the hills. If you are wearing too much clothing when you are ascending, then you might be sweating, and then your core will get wet, and then it will get cold, and then your whole body will just get really cold, and that can be really dangerous when you are out in the hills. So essentially the more layers you're wearing, the more kind of combinations of clothing you can put on to... Oslo is just having a stretch. Essentially, the more layers you're wearing, the more kind of combinations of layers you can put on for all different types of weather conditions and terrain. The kind of layers that I tend to wear at this time of the year when I'm out hill walking is I'm starting off with a t-shirt, and this is a merino t-shirt. Then I've got a long sleeve merino. Again, it's really thin but very warm. This is my mid layer, so it's kind of, you could wear a fleece, but I quite like this kind of thing. And then I've got a insulated jacket, which I'll put on now to show you. And then I've got my raincoat, so I'll put that on as well. So this is kind of normally the maximum layers that I will wear. So I'm wearing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. For me, this works really well. I'll wear this full set of layers when I'm on a really cold day. Maybe I'll put it all on in the summer and then I'll descend wearing it. To ascend, I might just be wearing up to my mid layer. I might be wearing my insulation as well. Sometimes I might take off this long sleeve base layer because it's super warm and I might not need it, but yeah, so I think this works really well for me. And on the bottom half, I don't layer as much. Sometimes I might wear thermal leggings with like waterproof trousers or mountaineering trousers, but most of the time I just kind of stick to these walking leggings or walking trousers. But I think it's, for me, it's my core that gets really cold, so that's where I layer the most. So we made it to the summit of Beaufort and it is beautiful up here. The clouds are kind of sweeping in and out of the valley, and we've been following a bit Raven. Nice, Harvey?
Fantastic, yeah.
Okay, and before I go into talking about each individual layer that I'm wearing, I thought I'd talk a little bit about brands and sustainability. So somebody asked me what my favourite brands are, and as you have seen, and a lot of people have asked me about this, I wear loads of Patagonia. I'm not sponsored or anything, but I used to work for them. So obviously working in an outdoor store, you get really good discount, and I essentially upgraded all of my kit to what I think is like the best in the outdoor industry. I really love Patagonia. They make super high quality clothing and they have a lifetime guarantee on everything. Obviously this isn't sponsored, I just really love the brand. I love their ethics and their sustainability. A lot of the fabrics are made from recycled materials. They're really like leading the way in terms of sustainability in the outdoors. Other brands I really like are, I really like Haglofs. I'm kind of getting into them a bit more, so I'm keen to try out some more of their stuff. I like Rab, they do really good down stuff. Findra for merino base layers are great. I don't wear loads of different brands because I think when you find the brands that you like and that fit you well, you kind of stick to what you know. So I've found that, so I stick a bit to what I know, but I'm always keen to like try out different items as well. And the next thing I want to talk about is sustainability. Obviously it's something that I'm super passionate about, and as I mentioned at the beginning, I don't want to encourage you to go out and buy loads and loads of new gear, but as I mentioned, I think that getting good quality, high quality gear is really important, and that way it will last you a lifetime. When I used to work at Patagonia, we'd have people come into the store who literally had had a jacket for like 20 years and were just getting something repaired on it, and that's amazing to see. So I really want to make sure that I'm keeping all of this gear for as long as I can and really looking after it. But something else that I'm a big believer of is using gear for different purposes. So obviously I do loads of hill walking, but I also climb. I've done a little bit of alpine. I went trekking in the Himalayas. You might see me out in the hills wearing something that you think is way too technical for what I'm doing. For example, I'll go on a little dog walk up Derwent Edge with Oslo and I'll be wearing a mountaineering jacket, but that's just because that's what I've got, and I've got that good quality gear for what it's intended for, but obviously I'm also going to use it for a little ramble in the hills. Getting good quality gear and using it for everything. So if you think you want to get into more long distance trekking, then buy gear for long distance trekking and use it for a walk in the hills as well. So yeah, essentially it's about keeping things simple and having minimal items that you can use for lots of different things. So rather than having climbing trousers, walking trousers, mountaineering trousers, have something that you can wear for all of them, or just have a couple that you can wear for all of them. So that's obviously something I'm still kind of working on, but yeah, it's something that I'm really passionate about. Okay, so now I'm going to talk you through each of the layers that I wear, starting with my very base layer. This is a merino base layer t-shirt from Icebreaker. I really like it. I wore it I think for 10 or 11 days in the Alps without washing it. This is essentially stopping you from sweating out, from the sweat kind of coming out through to the other layers. It's called wicking. This layer wicks away sweat, so it gets rid of the sweat. I've also got like a Rafa merino vest that I really like, that I also wear for climbing. So the next layer that I usually wear when I'm out hill walking is a long sleeve merino. This one is from a brand called Findra, who are based up in Scotland. I really like them. They have really great ethics. This is ethically sourced merino, and they're also like a really nice local independent brand, really small company, and they're really lovely. Yeah, I like to wear a long sleeve over my t-shirt because it just keeps me that little bit extra warm. This one is super warm, it's also really breathable, and it's just like an extra thin layer that keeps me warm when I'm out in the hills. So the next layer that I always put on is a mid layer, and your more traditional mid layer would be a fleece, but I quite like these other alternatives that a lot of brands now do. Like this, you can see it's a slightly different material. But essentially a mid layer should be warm, breathable, and quite light, as in I don't like something too bulky, especially when I'm layering. So this one's really nice because it's super light. It actually packs down into this pocket as well. So this is the Patagonia Nano Wear Light Hoodie, and it's actually discontinued now in the hoodie form, but you can get other like full zip jumpers. I actually really like the hoodie though, because I don't like having too many zips. So when I've got a zip insulated coat as well, I don't know, I prefer to have like a hoodie like this. But yeah, this layer is one that I might be wearing as an outer layer as well. So it's quite good if you can get something that has a bit of water resistance like this one does. But most of the time it might just be underneath an insulated jacket, and so in between your merino and your insulated jacket. So it is a very important layer. So you've got your base layers, your mid layer, and then the next layer you're going to want to put on is your insulated jacket. And in my opinion, this is one of, or the most important layer. And I think if you've only got a small budget and you can only invest in a couple of more expensive items, I would say invest in a good insulated jacket, because in the UK, you will literally wear it all year round. Like, I will always have this in my bag, even in the summertime. And a hiking boot. So those are my two kind of main items, or like the items that I think are most important. So you've got two types of insulation you could go for, down or synthetic. I'll talk about down first. So down is obviously a natural fabric. It comes from feathers, so it's not the actual feather itself, but it's kind of, yeah, like the little fluffy bits. Anyway, so essentially like down is like this, and it traps air, so it keeps you warm, and it also packs down really small, in a nutshell. But the disadvantages of down is that if it gets wet, it will be damaged, so you can't wear a down jacket in the rain. Most of them aren't waterproof. A lot of them put like a water resistant finish on them, but they're not waterproof, unless it's like a 2-in-1 jacket, of course. Down really is designed for cold, dry conditions like you might find in the Alps or other locations, while synthetic works better in mild, damp conditions. So synthetic essentially is a man-made fibre, and it's a fibre that is made to replicate down, but has properties, obviously because it's man-made, it has properties that make it lighter and more packable. So down tends to be a little bit warmer, but synthetic is in general a little bit lighter and more packable. So in the UK, I almost always choose a synthetic jacket, and that's because the weather is really unpredictable and it rains a lot. I also find synthetic a little bit more breathable in my opinion. Some people don't find that though, some people prefer down, but for me, I always go for synthetic in the UK. So this is the Patagonia Micro Puff hoodie, and it is a synthetic jacket, as I said. It packs down really small, it is so light, and it's really warm. It's essentially Patagonia's best warm to weight ratio jacket. Obviously I worked in the store, so I got this really discounted, which is amazing, but I honestly think it's worth the investment because I wear it for basically every single outdoor activity I do. The only thing I wouldn't wear it for is climbing on granite or gritstone because the rock is really sharp and tough, and I do have like the fabric, so because it's such a light jacket, the fabric is quite fragile, so I have like taped up a few holes in it, and I also stabbed a hole in the back with my ice axe, so that was kind of annoying, but I've taped it up now, so it's fine. And yeah, I love this jacket. Another jacket that I really like is the Patagonia Nano Puff, and in a way I think that the Nano Puff is almost better suited for the UK. It's a little bit cheaper, it's a little bit heavier, and not quite as warm, but for UK hill walking it's ideal, I think, so it will save you a few pennies. If you were to go for a down jacket instead, I recommend Rab have some really good down jackets. They are kind of the leaders in the UK in terms of down, and I think like the Microlight Alpine is really good jacket. They also responsibly source their down, so it's good quality down and it's ethical. And finally, when heading hill walking, on your top half you're going to want a good waterproof jacket. So I have a couple of different types of waterproof jackets. The first is this Haglof's pullover, and this is a more packable kind of lightweight jacket, and I actually got it for alpine climbing because with the pullover you can wear a harness over it, but I've also ended up wearing it for a lot of hill walking adventures. I really like it because it's light and super waterproof, and yeah, it packs down. Unfortunately it doesn't pack down into a bag or anything, which I quite like, but you can just kind of roll it up and stuff it into your bag anywhere. I also have this jacket, and this is actually a Patagonia snowboarding jacket, but I use this as a kind of mountaineering jacket and a real like heavy duty rainy day jacket. So if I'm going out in the hills and I know it's gonna be raining all day long, I will opt for this jacket. And I actually quite like the fact that if I put it on now, so it's a little bit longer, and that's because it's designed for snowboarding, so it's designed to cover your bum, but I really like that for walking. I think it just keeps me extra dry. This is Gore-Tex, so it is fully waterproof, really breathable. Same with this one. This one isn't Gore-Tex, but I haven't had, like I said, it's a really good waterproof jacket and really light and breathable. The difference in like the weights of these two is massive, so it works for me to kind of have two waterproof jackets that I use for different purposes, but you can definitely just buy one jacket, that will do everything. Okay, so moving down to the bottom half, I'm going to talk about my walking trousers. I feel like it is so hard to find a good pair of walking trousers, especially for women. I can't speak for men, but I think for women, so we're all such different shapes and sizes that it is very difficult to find a pair of trousers that will fit at the waist and at the thighs and be the right leg length and not fall down at the crotch. Yeah, it's really hard. But I have found 3 pairs of walking trousers that I really like. So the first one is these. These Fjallraven leggings, and these are the Fjallraven Abisko trekking tights. They're quite expensive, I think they're about £150, but they are such a good investment. They fit really well. They have these reinforced knees and at the bum as well. The length is ideal for me, and I also think I have a shorter friend who has some, and she doesn't really have an issue with the length either, because you can kind of pull them up a little bit if you're a bit shorter. They've got these pockets in the side as well that I really like, so I'll often put my lens cap in there, or like cereal bars in there or something like that. And they're a little bit high-waisted, so I quite like that. It makes them really comfortable, and I will often tuck in my t-shirt when I'm out hill walking, so I find these really, really good. I've done a full review of them on my blog as well. The other two pairs of trousers that I really like are the Patagonia RPS pants, and those are actually designed for climbing, and I bought them for climbing, but I love them for walking. They're a slightly lower rise, so they sit on your hips rather than your waist, which I really like, and you can kind of cinch them in at the bottom as well. So I really like that. And then I also was sent a pair of the Asai activewear trousers, which you might have seen on Instagram. A lot of people have them, but yeah, I really like those as well for autumn winter. I find them a little bit less breathable and comfortable than the Fjallravens, but they're a really nice trouser. They look nice on as well. You feel good when you wear them, and they've got a really good water resistancy to them and a really good stretch. Now, it's worth mentioning what I do when it's raining. You've kind of got two options for keeping your legs dry if it's raining. The first is that you can get a pair of waterproof over trousers, which I do have a pair of, but honestly I very rarely wear them in the hills. If I know it's going to be raining, I'll opt to wear these Patagonia trousers, and these are the galvanized pants. These are a mountaineering trouser. Again, I bought them for mountaineering, but I also wear them for hill walking. The reason I like them and I prefer to wear them than over trousers is because they're a slimmer fit. I can wear them over these leggings or over a pair of thermals. You can't really wear them over another pair of trousers, but over leggings or thermals, they're ideal. They are really stretchy, really breathable, packable, fully waterproof. So these are what I usually wear if the forecast has given rain. If I don't think it's gonna rain, then I might chuck my over trousers in my bag instead. But if I know there's a very high chance that it's gonna rain, I'll just go out wearing these because I really like them. Yeah, and they are really comfy. Okay, the next thing is accessories. First of all, I'll start with the headband. So many people have asked me where I got this headband from. Unfortunately, I got it when I was in Nepal trekking. I got it in Kathmandu, so unless you've planned a trip to the Himalayas, I don't know if you'll be able to find this exact headband. However, I found a brand online called Pachamama, who are based I don't know where they're based, but I found them online, and I actually found one of their headbands in a shop and thought it looked really similar to this. So I'll link them down below. I don't have that headband, I don't know what it's like, but they look really similar, and they've got the same kind of fleece lining and then wool outer, and yeah, I love this. I wear it all the time. The next thing is a buff. So I also got this in Nepal. It is fake North Face, which I wouldn't normally advise buying fake or cheap goods, but this one has lasted me a long time. And I don't know, I haven't really found anything similar to this in the UK that's like really warm and fleecy. Findra do some really nice buffs. I'm quite keen to try one of those out as well. And yeah, I don't always wear a buff, but if it's really cold, it just keeps your neck nice and warm and it stops the wind. Normally when it's windy, I'll like to wear a buff. So yeah. And then gloves. So I have a few different glove options. First of all, I've got these really thin North Face ones. These are the ones that you're supposed to be able to touch your phone with them, but I really don't think that works at all. Regardless of that, they're a good, solid, thin glove layer. It's worth having multiple pairs of gloves if it's raining because these aren't waterproof, and when your gloves get soaked through, it just kind of sucks. So I almost always have a spare pair of gloves in my bag. I also have these Rab mountaineering gloves, which I wear for hill walking as well. Again, I got them for mountaineering. They're designed with the leather back so you can hold your ice axe. But yeah, they're really good for hill walking. They're super warm, I really like them. These are the Baltoro gloves. And then the last thing is hiking socks. So there's a few brands of hiking sock I really like. The first is Stance, which is these. So I'll just show you kind of what they look like. And I also really like Smartwool and Darn Tough. I've never actually worn Darn Tough socks, but Harvey loves them and I really want to try them because he is always raving about them. But I'm currently wearing some Smartwool socks, which I love, and I have loads of pairs of Stance socks. The only thing I have found with Stance is that they do wear through at the heel, but yeah. Obviously it takes a bit of time, but I have worn a few through at the heel. Okay, hiking boots. So these are my trusty steeds. These are the Altberg Malin boots. I should really have cleaned them for this video, but I have not, and they are pretty muddy. I would recommend cleaning your boots after every walk. But yeah, so I recently got these boots from George Fisher. I'm an ambassador for George Fisher, so now and again I get to try out some gear, which is great. And before this I had a pair of Berghaus boots that were like a suede fabric, and I had them for about 5 or 6 years and they were amazing. They were not expensive, but they just lasted me so long, super waterproof, but unfortunately they got holes in them and they got quite loose on my feet, so I decided it was time to replace them after like 6 years. So I opted for the Altberg Malin boots, which I love so far. They're a leather boot, but I actually broke into them quite quickly. I had one walk where I found them quite stiff and I felt like I had some bruising on the top of my foot, but since then the leather has really softened and they're just so comfy. I feel like my feet are fully molded into them. This is they say it's a 2-3 season walking boot, but for me this is basically going to be the boot that I wear all year round in the UK, apart from for real snowy conditions, in which case I have some mountaineering boots. And sometimes in the summer I'll hike in my approach shoes, which are for climbing, or even in my running trainers, like depending on what kind of walk I'm getting. But other than that, I will wear these basically all year round. They are really good on like rocky terrain. I wore them in the snow up on Derwent Edge. I mean, there wasn't loads of snow, but they performed really, really well. They're super supportive at the ankle. Yeah, I just really like them. They're a solid walking boot, and as I mentioned already, I think if you're going to invest in any 2 items, I would recommend going for a really good insulated jacket that is warm and light and packable, and a really good pair of walking boots that fit you super well. Make sure that you try them on and walk around the shop in them a little bit. I definitely recommend getting like a 3 season boot for the UK and getting one that goes up over your ankles, which most boots do, obviously. If it's your first pair of walking boots, I think the suede boots are pretty good because you can break into them really quickly. Okay, I'm going to end by just mentioning quickly what bags I have for hiking. However, I am going to film a video next week about what I pack in my rucksack, so I'll go into it in a bit more detail then. But I kind of have 2 bags that I wear when I head out into the hills. The first is this like little Patagonia day pack, which I actually got when I worked at the store. It was kind of my uniform. I used it to go to and from work every day, but I really like it as a walking bag. It's super comfortable in the back. It's pretty small, but it fits in it kind of everything I need for a simple walk in the Peak District. So I can fit my camera in here as well, a flask of tea, some snacks, spare clothing, that kind of thing. However, if I'm doing a longer walk, possibly like in the Lake District or in Scotland or somewhere where I'm going to be out for a really long time and ascending higher, I find I need a bigger bag. So I have this Patagonia Ascensionist, and this is actually a 40-litre bag, which I definitely think is like slightly too big, but I got it for alpine. I use it for trad climbing and alpine climbing, and it's also really good for bivvying or solo wild camping in the summer when you don't need as much stuff. So it serves a few different purposes. So yeah, it's a little bit too big as like a day pack, but it doesn't really matter. It's not heavy, it's super light, and this is the one that I use when I need more items of gear. I need more food, I need more spare clothing, I might be carrying like a safety shelter or anything like that. It also is my mountaineering bag. It's got the straps for your ice axe, or you can put your hiking poles in here. I haven't mentioned hiking poles because I don't use them that much, but yeah, I might chat about them in another video or another time. Okay, that's everything. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully I've covered everything and answered all your questions, especially those to do with layering and how to stay warm and dry. But yeah, do ask any questions down below. I can continue this series, so next week I'm going to talk about what I actually pack in the bag. So if you've got any questions on that, ask me down below. I'm also going to make a video about my wild camping gear. I can make one about mountaineering gear. Yeah, anything you want to know. I just want to be able to like pass on some of the experiences I've gained and hopefully help you out. I'll just end by saying that I'm not a qualified mountain leader or mountain guide, but I am doing my training this year. So though I have not been trained yet, I am really keen to learn more. I'm not an expert, so if you have any real concerns about gear or what you're going to pack, do consult an expert. Hopefully one day I will be one, but I'm not at the moment. However, I really appreciate you valuing my opinion anyway, and thank you so much for your support and for watching this video. See you guys next week for what I pack in my rucksack.